And welcome, come one, come all. It's Gold Derby's Oscar Roundup. I'm joined here by Rob Licuria, Chris Rosen, and Joyce Eng to break down the Oscars just happened. We've got another Oscars in the bag. And what was the Best Picture winner? What took out Best Picture? I think I've got it on the line. I think I've got it up. It's Coda. Coda, the film about a fishing family.
It's not wet enough.
There you go. Yes, well, it's very big breeze in here. Yes, Coda is the Best Picture winner, making history. Rob, while I get my line up and just make sure it doesn't get away, do you want to tell us how do you feel about the Coda winning Best Picture? Another no director nomination, was able to win Best Picture, following the footsteps of Argo and Green Book.
Just here we go again, and I think I'm happy that most of us appear to have gotten this right after we've been debating for so long about whether it would be Power of the Dog, which did have some momentum, and then obviously Coda has really come up strong in the last couple of weeks. And I think it just reminds me, I was saying this to myself last week as I talk to myself often, again, because, a bit psychotic, that you just don't have to overthink this anymore. The preferential voting ballot is very, very important. And where PGA goes, I think we do need to pay attention, particularly if the film also won ensemble at SAG and is so popular and it's breaking late and people are seeing it and talking about it and has lots of social media engagement, and that's Coda. So I'm happy for Coda. It won all three of its awards. We thought tonight was going to be chaos. It certainly was that. I'm really happy for Coda, though. I'm disappointed for Power of the Dog because I just think that movie is a masterpiece, but it's okay. It won Best Director, and I think we should all just be super happy that a film like Coda can win Best Picture. That's very exciting.
Joyce, what do you think?
Not surprising based on the last 3 weeks. I switched back to Power of the Dog yesterday just to go down the ship, but I knew Coda was winning, so. But it had all the momentum and also the wins. And I don't think it broke a bunch of stats, which was what everyone initially was saying about it, that it couldn't win. But you could just tell that, more people were watching it. I disagree that it was underseen in phase one. Enough people saw it to nominate it in these categories and also at other award shows. It was just that after SAG, more people watched it. And, WGA voting closed in mid-February. So they were already on the Coda train. I think it's sort of good that it did win, in that people will stop being so married to all these stats, because it won with the fewest nominations since Grand Hotel, which just had one for Best Picture, and no directing or below the line nominations, and obviously no editing, because that wasn't even created when Grand Hotel won. So I think when we have, it might just be an anomaly. Maybe this won't happen again for another 20 years, but it'll make people think more about contenders that on paper might not look like they have everything, which is also what I was hoping for had Penelope Cruz won. That you just don't automatically dismiss someone because they missed all the precursors.
Yeah, very good. Christopher, do you want to weigh in on Coda of it all?
Yeah, I agree with what Rob and Joyce said. I think the other thing is, again, it just the enthusiasm. The Academy, the movie that wins seemingly is the one that people like the most, right? And Coda obviously had the most enthusiasm, and there was not as much enthusiasm for Power of the Dog. Whether or not it's a better film, people wanted Coda to win. I think you could sense that in the room all night when it won. I had picked it. Obviously, I think it had passed Power of the Dog in our odds as well by the time you got to the show. But I mean, once obviously Sean Hayter won Best Adapted Screenplay, you could just tell that it was going to win. But the response in the room was just very, very enthusiastic. And even for Jane's Best Director win. I didn't even think it was that enthused compared to like the Coda buzz. I was just like, oh, they just really, really enjoyed Coda, and I think that was why it won. And Jane's victory in Best Director was seemingly undeniable, and that's probably why she won. But yeah, I was pleased that Coda won. Normally, I don't like it when the movies I like win Best Picture, because at this point now it's always like the movie that ends up winning gets to go through its Oscar villain phase, and everybody hates all the movies now that win. And I was like, oh, I really like Coda so much. I don't want to see it getting killed on social media, but alas, seemingly it has, but not enough, obviously, to stop it winning Best Picture. So yeah, I was pleased.
Yeah, like Coda's the film that when I was watching all the Best Picture nominees, and there's just something that is very feel good about it, and you sort of want it. I can definitely understand why voters saw that movie and said, yes, let's put that in. And particularly when it's, you need 50% or more of the vote to get over the line, like, who's going to rank Coda low? You know, it's just such a lovable, huggable, feel-good film, but also powerful film. It's not just schmaltzy and stuff. There's some real great... It's just a wonderful film. I think it's a great film to be in that canon of Best Picture. And how fit Coda, which stands for Children of Deaf Adults, but is also a musical term. It's a film about music as well, and the power of music. And it's it ends a piece of music, a Coda. And what a great way is the Coda to the awards season for this year was Coda. So yes, and yes, McDermott says a clean sweep for Coda. Yeah, a bit of a mini sweep there. It won every category it was nominated in tonight. Screenplay and supporting actor as well. Which means we probably should dive into the acting categories now. I always like to open talking about big picture. I think in the canon of the Oscars, that's the sort of list you go back into. What was the picture that defines the year? What will this year's Oscars be remembered by? But obviously, the talk of the awards was Will Smith, who took out the award for Best Lead Actor for King Richard. Also had an altercation with Chris Rock in the ceremony. Joyce, just how did you respond to all of that?
I bet some people probably felt like they could switch their vote after that. But yeah, the altercation was just kind of like WTF. I think there was a lot of confusion for a while. I knew it was real right away just because of the shock on Chris Rock's face, and then they censored it for so long. But yeah, they got the viral moment they wanted, the producers and ABC and Will Packer and everybody. So the show still went over 3 hours. They said they were gonna get this done in 3 hours. It went 3.5. Anyway, yeah, that was pretty intense. And there's a clip on Twitter showing Will's publicist talking to him after that. So quick damage control, and his speech was very long, clearly trying to address it without directly addressing it, and he apologized to Academy and everyone except Chris Rock, really. And yeah, you could see he was trying to get the message across and kind of couching it with the whole message of love and defending his family. I think he's just he's probably going through something really intense, and I'm not going to guess what that is, but I don't think there's any place for violence. So,
yeah, I think that's fair. The violence really shocked me. I did think it was a bit initially with the sort of when he hit Chris Rock. It was hard for the camera angle for me to see exactly how he hit him. But when he started shouting out, it was like, oh, okay, this isn't a bit.
Chris
he's swearing.
Definitely thought he was coming up to joke around because he was smiling. He was walking on stage too.
Yeah. So, Chris, do you have any thoughts?
I mean, I think what Joyce said there was pretty accurate. I too think Chris Rock thought it was a bit until he got hit in the face. You could see it on the photos and even in the response. And there's the uncensored version that I think is from Australian TV. Rob, you're in Australia. I guess they
censor stuff here.
They censor everything here.
Yeah, that's right.
Here, no. Yeah. But so that version, you could see that Chris Rock was really surprised. Obviously, I just was. It definitely cast a pall over the rest of the show. Just me watching it on my couch, I was incredibly uncomfortable for the rest of the show. I thought Amy Schumer handled it pretty well when she came out. I was surprised they didn't actually go to the hosts sooner to like kind of like, I don't know,
Yeah.
kind of put a handle on it, perhaps. I
Yeah.
mean, it's apples and oranges, obviously, because we're talking about physical violence versus like an envelope mess up. But when we had the Moonlight La La Land mess, Jimmy Kimmel was like pretty out in front on that, and obviously it was towards the end of the show, and it was like he was ready to come out.
This is the year they should have had Best Actor last. So
they could have. Maybe that would have been better. But yeah, I thought it was super uncomfortable for the rest of the show. I was kind of glad they didn't play off Will, obviously, even though I thought his speech he was going through a lot, but I was kind of happy to let him talk it out, and I thought that made for at least compelling television, if incredibly uncomfortable. I'll be curious to see what everybody says now afterwards. I was seeing on Twitter one of the reporters who were in the press room was like, you cannot ask the winners anything except about their win. So like clearly they're trying to like bottle it off so people aren't talking about and making that the whole conversation of the night, which I can understand, because if you just want an Oscar like just Chastain or Troy Kotsur, do you really want to have to come up with a statement on like Will Smith and Chris Rock? Probably not. It's like the best moment of your life so far. But yeah, I guess we'll see. I'll be very curious to read the next 12, 24 hours in the story.
Yeah, Rob, do you want to weigh in?
Yeah, look, I think we thought it was a bit at first. Paula and I were watching it together, and we were like, what's happening? What's going on? And then there was a bit of a cutout in the Australian feed where we went to ad break, and I thought, during Questlove's speech, actually.
Yeah, during Questlove's speech. So not during the,
Yeah, and I thought, what's going, anyway, look, we figured out that it wasn't a bit, and I personally just don't think I think there's a time and place for defending your family. Look, I have a very bad temper, and if anyone disrespects my wife or children, then there will probably be a punch up. I get that, but I probably would have waited and then done it backstage, or I would have sent him an email and said, what you said was unacceptable, whatever, right? So, but that's just me. Everyone's different, and I'm not trying to suggest what was going through his head. They've obviously gone through a lot. I think Jada Pinkett Smith has been unwell. I think she has alopecia, whatever it may be. And I think Chris Rock just hit a nerve that was very unfortunate for the whole show. I watched that La La Land ceremony that we had for, I think, 2016, whatever it was. And I thought, I wonder if we're ever going to get a moment like this again, where it's just bedlam and chaos. And weren't we saying this earlier today, that the Oscars were going to be chaos today? And look what happened. I mean, the winners were there were some surprises, but generally speaking, I've never seen anything like that before. When Will Smith was screaming, get my wife's name out of your effing mouth, he said it twice. I mean, I had chills down my spine. I thought, this is going to get really ugly. I'm glad it didn't. There's a time and place maybe for that kind of thing. I think violence is never the answer. And I feel really bad for everyone concerned. And I just hope, look, we'll be talking about this for a very long time. I think this is one of those moments that we'll never ever forget. It's just not a good one, actually. And I just, I was going to make a joke and say that the big elephant in the room was Army of the Dead winning the Twitter vote, which was such a fizzer. Yeah, like, honestly, what a joke. That was just a terrible thing with the Bridget. I hope they never do that again. There's so much to love about the ceremony. There's a lot for us to criticize, but that Will Smith stuff, I feel like it was really gross, and I'm really sorry that it happened.
Yeah, I agree that violence is never an appropriate response. Even, Rob, if it's about your family backstage or whatever it is, I just think it's not an appropriate. I know you're joking, but I think never an appropriate response. So it was very unfortunate. A night where we want to be spending this time talking about Coda and the great work in filmmaking, and Will Smith's incredible performance in King Richard. It's a shame that has to it has to be something that we talk about, and it's just one of those moments where I'd rather sort of reflect on it a bit rather than give sweeping statements and things. But I was disappointed by the violence, and I also think it's hard to process everything Will Smith said on stage, because I think it did go to a number of different places. I do think what Denzel Washington said to him, or what he says Denzel Washington said to him, that when we're at our highest, that's when the devil makes his move, or whatever it was very wise advice and a very helpful thing, because Will Smith has been on such a high award season, and he really is getting a lot of honor his career in many ways has deserved. So it's a shame that that's going to sort of probably be the defining Will Smith moment of awards season. And yes. very disappointing. But there were some other actors. Did anyone else want to weigh in on any of that? I don't have to have the final word, but
I think that was a good final word.
Maybe when we get our next panel in, they might have some thoughts too. But some other actors won tonight. Jessica Chastain in a Best Actress race that was all over the map this season. From, Nicole Kidman was front runner at one point. Kristen Stewart was front runner at one point. Penelope Cruz looked like she was sort of about to emerge into that front runner position in the past week. So everyone's sort of been, and then Olivia Colman, never count her out. They've all been in the mix this season for this award. Joyce, what did you think about Chastain's win tonight?
Good for her, because I think she's someone that a lot of people feel like should have an Oscar by now, especially after her breakout year in 2011. So, only not fun for me because she just won the last 3 awards, and I wanted this race to be as chaotic as last year's. But yeah, I think she just, it's the baitiest performance of the 5, and she won SAG, obviously, and Critics' Choice, even though she would not have won Critics' Choice had it been in January, like it originally was scheduled for. So yeah, that was the only one that was really ripe for a surprise. Like the other 3 were locked, the other 3 acting categories. So SAG went 4 for 4 again after going 2 for 4 last year. So they just like alternate every year or every 2 years now. Yeah, it would, again, like I said before, it would have been cool. It had like Penelope won just to defy the stats, like Coda, so people won't be so obsessive with like sticking to them to predict something every year.
Yeah. Chris or Rob, any thoughts on the Best Actress race?
Chris, you go first.
I'll go first. I wanted to say to Ernie, to those who changed to Penelope Cruz, ouch. And then I saw somebody else saying, I should have not listened to the possibility that Cruz could have won. I apologize for that. I know Joyce picked Penelope Cruz as well. I just thought Penelope Cruz was good on all the anonymous ballots we have seen were like Penelope Cruz.
But in our defense, you and I were talking about her before those ballots. We were.
Yeah. And the reasoning was that it just was, the rest of the movies didn't seem as strong, and maybe Parallel Mothers was good and they liked it. I'm very happy Jessica Chastain won as well. I think it was, I think I had all 5 of them at one point winning, so it was definitely a pretty evenly matched race. And I thought Jessica Chastain gave a really nice speech, and I was again impressed at their patience of not playing her off either when they were just breaching 3 hours and 35 minutes or whatever it was, so much longer than last year. So no, it was nice that she won, and it's a great performance in a perfectly fine movie, I would say. So I was happy she won, but she's really good in the movie, so that's good.
Yeah. I was so happy about her speech, Jessica Chastain. I was a little disappointed that she won, to be honest. I just didn't think it was the best performance in the group. That's okay. I'm glad she has an Oscar. She's just given us so many wonderful performances over the last few years. I thought all the acting nominees gave great speeches. Probably, I wasn't expecting Troy Cox. I thought he would be the best. But I actually felt like Ariana DeBose and even Jessica Chastain's were even better. I don't really want to say much more about Will Smith's speech because I feel like it was clouded by what had already happened beforehand, and maybe after a while we'll let it sit with us and we can appreciate his win and his speech a bit better. That's just my opinion. But I was really happy that Jessica Chastain was able to kind of tie who she was playing, Tammy Faye, and what she meant to the LGBTQ community with what's going on right now, particularly in the US and the South and so forth. That was very powerful. Ariana DeBose as well was able to do something similar as a queer Black Latina. Very powerful stuff. And, Troy Kotzer gets up and says, this is for the deaf community, this is for disabled people. I love that. I love to see people who might be on the margins come to front of center with big spotlight on them and say, here we are, recognize us, let's make more films about us. And that's really cool. I was very happy about that.
Is there, let's sort of go around the grounds and say, is there a category each of you would like to talk about that you were particularly enjoyed or particularly interested in, or maybe particularly outraged about? Joyce, is there a category at the top of your mind at this step?
not, I mean, in terms of winners, not particularly, because everything went according to script. It was like the set of winners is really boring. Like literally the only surprise was animated short. The Fantasy Windshield Wiper. And like the odds on favorite was Robin. But everything else, like if you pick Dune for 6 awards, congratulations to you. Like there are probably so many perfect scores. Because everything, it was just all the favorites. They were really lazy this year. I don't know, like, because nothing surprised me. Like everyone who I thought was gonna win won. Let me see. I felt bad for Questlove having to give a speech after that.
I was thinking of that too, actually. I felt bad too because it's just
right after. And he was like so excited this whole season, like you know. So yeah, that was weird.
They did a great job of paying honor to. I love it when they shout out to the other nominees in the category and they go through them by, like, he named all the films, and that was really nice.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, good for Riz Ahmed. He's an Oscar winner now. He pulled a Christine Lottie winning live action short. So
yeah,
I don't understand like why they even cut those or demote those 8 categories, because it didn't really change anything in their presentation, and they were so poorly edited into the show, you know. Of course they cut editing as one of them as well.
I thought editing was one of the best speeches of the night. Was that the guy? Was that the one who talked about the one who talked about how his daughter makes fun of him for being an Oscar nominee?
Now imagine hearing that live.
I thought that was so funny. I thought that was a lovely Oscar speech. Probably my favorite outside of the actors. Who, look, some years it might be my favorite speech full stop, but I agree with you guys that the actors they knocked it out of the park with their speeches this year.
Yeah. You know, I'm looking at the comments, and Alvaro Zuniga said nobody is mentioning the Dune massive win. Well, I'll mention it.
Yeah.
That was my favorite film of 2021. It won 6 Oscars. That's incredible. I'm so proud of that whole team. I just feel it's so disappointing that Denis Villeneuve could not also be nominated as Best Director. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but I guess, you know, he has another chance when Dune Part 2 comes out. Hopefully it's just as good, if not better. Really, really happy with all those wins. Conversely, I'm disappointed that Power of the Dog wasn't able to convert any of its other 11 nominations into wins. I thought particularly having Jesse Plemons nominated in Supporting Actor alongside Katie Smith-McPhee meant that it had a lot of support. It just didn't quite get there. But you know what, Matt, and before, obviously, Chris, you might want to talk about a category, but there's a lot of highlights from the show and lowlights that we could probably talk about in terms of a TV show that we watched tonight. There were some really bad things that I just thought were really badly done, and some pretty good things. Like, for example, Billie Eilish and Phineas performing No Time to Die. I thought that was flawless. On the other hand, the We Don't Talk About Bruno thing was atrocious. I just thought it was just not good at all, and that could have been the highlight of the show. I was so looking forward to it. Seeing Eliza Minnelli with Lady Gaga at the end when Lady Gaga whispered, "I've got you." You know, that kind of stuff really, really rings. I find that really, really amazing to watch. It's unfortunate that the whole show itself just felt really stilted and a bit long and a bit stuffy and boring and not very well planned out.
Well, Chris, how did you think the show all played out as a TV show? We can go back to one of your favorite categories later.
No, that's fine. I mean, I thought it was actually, I didn't think it was bad. I thought it was much better. It was an improvement from last year, I would say, which I found to be deadly boring last year. And I thought this year had at least, even before the Will Smith, Chris Rock thing, I found it like a little more engaging. I was confused by the Bruno thing as well. I didn't think it was as poorly executed as Rob did, and it's seemingly everybody else. I was like, it was fine, but I just didn't understand, you have this massive song that is appealing to young kids, and you put it on at like 9:48 East Coast time. Like, you don't open the show with that. I assume that's because they only got Beyonce to perform if she was allowed to open the show, maybe. Though I don't know if that's true. But even the way they staged it with making it like a tribute to the Oscars felt like an opening of the show. And I just don't understand why it was so late and why they even ended up doing it. And I mean, I understand why they did it because it's like a popular song on ABC and all that. I found that to be a little jarring. I lost my mind laughing at they go from Troy Kotzer, so we could fold this in, but that was my favorite moment with Troy Kotzer's win was just amazing. And I thought his speech was so wonderful. And I was actually crying watching his speech. The man is just an incredible. I found him so moving and like, it was great. And then they just cut to Chris Evans being like,
Incredible.
congratulations, Troy Kotzer. Now let's watch a trailer for my movie Lightyear. I laughed harder at that than anything in any movie last year. I could not believe that was on the show, that they had to do that. Did Chris Evans do 5 of those? Or did they just say, hell, Troy Kotzer's going to win?
I hope they made him record 5 of those.
Like, that was unbelievably, I just could not believe that was on the Oscars.
It was so good.
I found that really rough. And I even, so I thought that was a low light. The Wanda Sykes Academy Museum thing was another low light. I thought that was
waste of time.
Real rough waste of time. But I enjoyed, like, the 3 of them I thought had really fun chemistry when they're allowed to do it. And, like, some of the bits were just big flops. So I don't know. I think it was like a mixed bag. I still kind of think it was better than last year, though. So I'll be curious to see if people watched it. I think the social media views of Will Smith slapping Chris Rock will be explosive, and I wonder if that will cause people to have tuned in, if they were just like on their phones, or if you were getting texts from your friends being like, oh my god, did you see that? Would people have tuned in and watched the last half of the show? If they did, the ratings are going to go through the roof comparatively to last year. So we might see Will Packer again, Rob, is what I'm trying to say. Sorry.
Oh no. You know what, Matt, sorry to interrupt. I was just also thinking, like, where does this take, when we discuss this in years to come, where does this take us as a society or as a culture when comedians are making jokes at the expense of extremely rich, wealthy people in the audience, like Ricky Gervais used to do, and he used to do it in a really sometimes quite offensive way. Amy Schumer did it way better at the beginning of this ceremony. I thought she just was. I have been against having her as a host for a few weeks now, and I admit I was wrong. She did a great job. She really threaded that needle perfectly, I found. And Wanda Sykes and Regina Hall, both brilliant, great hosts, very, very happy. But where does it take us as a society when a comedian maybe it makes a joke about somebody, whether he knew about the issue with Jada Pinkett Smith or not? He's always used the Smiths, I guess, as a bit of a punchline, I suppose. Does that mean now that comedians have to be more careful about offending people because they might get attacked? Like, this is the stuff that's going through my head, just more as a bigger picture scenario. I'm really curious to see what everyone else thinks as we dissect this over the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw this.
Yeah.
Sorry, one thing I wanted to ask all of you guys about, what do you think of the In Memoriam?
Oh, yeah, that was a mess. What did you think?
So I saw wildly mixed reactions. I don't know. I saw people really liked it, and other people were like, that was to be believed.
I mean,
so
they should bring the dog back, really.
Yeah.
The dog.
I didn't hate it. It was a choice.
Yeah. I quite liked having someone like Bill Murray come out and say something about Ivan Reitman while they're going through it, and they did it for a couple others too. I didn't mind that choice. I know it means that sort of some get more airtime than others, and that could be an issue, but I didn't mind the Memoriam segment, how it worked. I think some of the song, like I think one of the songs that they did for it was maybe a little on the nose with, what was it, like Going Up to Heaven or something, or like I don't know. So yeah, but I didn't mind that a few people came out and shared some words about some of the people who had passed. I thought that worked quite nicely.
I agree. I could see them actually using that again next year. I thought that was a nice touch, like having, like, especially for, like, you know, like Bill Murray talking about Ivan Reitman was really nice, and even though Betty White, you could argue, was not the most prolific film star, so maybe not like a person you would expect to see at the Oscars. I thought the Jamie Lee Curtis tribute was pretty sweet as well. So
yeah, nah, very, very much so. Joyce, what do you think of the show as a whole?
No, I'm with Chris. Like, I didn't think it was bad, like, overall. Like, I was enjoying the show or like more than I was enjoying the winners, because like you guys are so lazy. These winners are so boring. And the show was fine. Like, it wasn't perfect. But you know, like leading up like until like the Will Smith stuff, it was fine. And you know, when that Will Smith stuff happened, it made it more interesting, because then I wasn't even focusing on the In Memoriam for like half of it, because everyone was just like tweeting like clips of like his publicist like talking to him, and, you know, all the uncensored clips. So you could like hear everything he said. So, yeah, you know, it's still hilarious to me that it went over 3.5 hours when they were like, yeah, we're going to get out like after 3 hours sharp. And you did it. So yeah, there's still like a lot of questionable choices they made overall, like we said before, with, you know, the Bruno number being so late, and also just not like tied together with like Dos Oruguitas. Like they've just done a medley, like the Bond stuff being separate. Like they could have done the Bond tribute leading into No Time to Die performance. So I don't know if like they were trying to spread that stuff because they had cut 8 categories, but then like those, I don't know, like those didn't take up so much time when they were airing it either. I have no idea what they were doing, but I think like there was more energy than there was like last year when it was, they like didn't really do anything to kind of enhance the show except to present like director halfway through the show and best actor last.
Yeah, it's interesting. I agree with you, Joyce. I think it could have been for Encanto. Why couldn't they done some medley that ended on the Oscar-nominated song? Then you've got a whole. I love a good medley, so I'm always up for a medley. But it's also then something original that no one's ever seen before. How the songs work together, so like sort of becomes something people want to either look up on YouTube the next day or tune into the Oscars to see. We're going to do a original Encanto medley tonight. So I think, yeah, and tying it in with the James Bond, the Billie Eilish song would have been great too. So, yeah, it was a bit all over the shop. I didn't hate it as much as Rob, though, either. I did think it was, like, I probably did prefer it to last year's as well. Like, I think last year's was probably a bit more of a mess by putting actor at the end. And I just found it very flat. I think the hosts added a bit of life to it and a bit of, you know, like it kept it bumping along, even though the order of everything tonight was still pretty nuts. And huge props to Regina Hall too, who probably isn't known for her comedy chops as much as like a Wanda Sykes and Amy Schumer. So I thought she held her own with those two. She's not a known comedian, even though she's funny in Black Monday. But yeah, so very, very good. I've got a question for I don't know if we say the letters SSSHR or SHAR, but what do people think of the reunions? We had a lot of film reunions.
Disappointing.
Okay, 28 years is not a reunion number. That's all.
Yeah.
Wait 2 more years.
Yeah. I thought the Pulp Fiction one actually was the funnest of all of them, with them dancing. Like, I think that one actually gelled the best, like, of all of them. Some of them seem just a bit, okay, we're just doing this for the sake of it. Like the Juno one. It's a bit like, okay.
Yeah.
No. Like, probably, like, nice to have them present together. I think that would have worked well. But to make it a reunion thing seemed a bit... sorry? Yeah. Any before we move on to our next panel, do any of you have final thoughts that you want to leave us with?
I have a lot of thoughts. I really do. Like, this is going to take me a while to digest and think about, and I'll be reading Twitter for a while tonight because there's a lot to process with the Will Smith stuff. Sorry, it's the elephant in the room. Yeah, I just think that was something else, and I've never seen anything like it. But the rest of the show, my view of the show is it needs an overhaul. I think the way that the Oscars have been telecast over the last couple of decades, I think we may be moving past that as a paradigm, because tonight's it just wasn't great. Okay, maybe it wasn't. I mean, last year's was awful, but we were in a serious pandemic back then, and we didn't know what COVID was. This time, they had opportunities to really tighten it up and link things, like you guys have very rightly said, and they just missed the boat. And the presenters, they weren't top notch. Like, we don't really need Jacob Elordi there with Rachel Ziegler, let's be honest. Things like that. I just think there was a bit of a missed opportunity. Such great movies. Let's honor them. Let's see the costumes. Let's hear the scores. Let's see the visual effects and how the editing was done. That's what we're watching. We don't care about Army of the Dead, okay? And that's what really gets up my nose. But that's just me.
Yeah, I guess for me, the last thing I would say was just we made we got nothing but weeks of how terrible it was that they were kicking those categories. How they moved the 8 categories into the pre-show, and how that was going to make a shorter show and all this. And like Joyce said, it didn't affect it at all. They could have just put those on the show, and they didn't even. It didn't even cut time down. I just was, the whole presentation of that was so flawed. It was, if you think about it, the way the other shows that I assume they were trying to emulate, like the Tony Awards or like even the Critics' Choice Awards, they are just like rattling those off like they're reading off a press release. And this was actually the full presentation pretty much, except for like them walking up to this. I just could not wrap my head around why they thought that was going to cut time down. Like, even if it's like 30 seconds to walk on stage, that's 8 times 30. I'm not really good at math, but that's still not 35, 40 minutes. So I don't know. I just thought that was like a huge fail. I don't think they would do that again. I hope not.
Yeah, like I knew they wouldn't like reverse that decision this time, because it just seemed like something they really wanted to do, or ABC really wanted them to do, but it didn't change anything, and it just made a bunch of people pissed off, and now you have a handful of people who just left the Academy. So yeah, it didn't change anything, and yeah, didn't shorten the show at all. Like the pre-show, they doled out those 8 categories in like half an hour, and the show went like over 3.5 hours. So like, who cares? Just air them live.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us for the panel. Don't want us to go anywhere, because we are bringing in our next panel. We are halfway through our post-Oscar show, and we are now going to be joined by Charles Bright, David Buchanan, and Tony Ruiz. Here they are. So thanks, Rob. Thanks, Christopher. Thanks, Joyce. All the best.
Bye.
Later.
Okay, guys.
Love you, Rob.
Let's get stuck into it. The Oscars. Oh, by the way, for those playing at home, I have an item or an image from all of the Best Picture nominees behind me at the moment. So if you get bored of what we're talking about, you can try to spot which thing matches which film. There you go. Tony, lay it on me. What's at the top of your mind at this hour?
What a god-awful ceremony.
Oh, okay. Not a fan. Tony is not a fan.
I'm not going to pull any punches here.
Unlike someone.
Yeah, right. Who should have pulled a punch. Even without that moment, this was one of the most ineptly produced Oscar ceremonies that I have seen in a long time. And I was one of the few defenders of last year's ceremony, which I thought was appropriate to the time, the place, the moment. But this ceremony was so inept, so lacking in basic competence of how to present a show that had any kind of momentum, enthusiasm, and I mean, I'm just kind of at a loss for just how ridiculous this ceremony ended up being. I mean, let's not even, I mean, we can just start with the fact that the whole point of taking those 8 categories and presenting them before the show and then editing them ridiculously and, in my mind, incompetently into the ceremony didn't save them any time and didn't make the show any less ridiculous than it ended up being. I'm just stunned. I'm just stunned at how at the incompetence of what I saw for the last 3 hours.
Well, okay, Charles, what do you enjoy it?
You know, it was one of those where I kind of were like last year. I thought last year it started off really compelling, and then as the ceremony went on, it just lost it from there. This one became even just more unhinged, more quickly, and just went down, and just went down the toilet, or in your case, Matt, went down clockwise.
Yes.
It's so bizarre, this whole thing. And even like some of these wins feel bizarre. The fact that the film with the most nominations, resounding 12 nominations, only wins one, and it's directing of all things.
A good one. If you're going to win one, that's a good one to win.
I mean, that's a good one to win. I mean, it's a good one to win, but it's still, I was predicting, even though I was predicting that to happen, the fact that it actually manifested is so weird. It just feels so weird. And I feel like it's one that's going to take me a while to process. But I mean, even in the most awful ceremonies, there are good moments. I thought, of course, Kotzer's win was magnificent. I thought Ariana DeBose's speech was great. I thought Questlove was wonderful, accepting the best documentary for Summer of Soul. And by the way, that is 2 years in a row now we've had late night band leaders win Oscars. So whoever Seth Meyers' band leader is should probably get their Oscar speech ready.
Yes. Good. John Baptiste last year, and this year Questlove. Well, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's just, you're trying to, I'm sure, everything. I'm trying to, get my mind off of the whole Will Smith thing because I'm trying to remember the other parts of this. But like Tony said, it didn't even come close to finishing by 11 o'clock. It didn't even come close to just going a little bit over. I think it went longer than last year's.
3 hours and 40 minutes.
So that was longer than last year's. They pledged they were getting rid of, they were relegating these categories to bring in a 3-hour show, and it ends up going 10 minutes longer than last year.
Now, to be fair, I think I got the sense that if we watched the 8 edited out categories, or edited, I guess they were edited in actually, and the live below the line categories, I imagine the time for the live ones would still on average be longer than the time for the 8 that they put in. So, clearly some time was saved from that move, but you guys are right. The very reason they brought in that reform was to bring the ceremony on time, and they weren't able to do that. So how did that work out? Did the
some time was saved? Sometimes, but then they
did other
but
things.
They filled it with garbage.
Yeah.
So it was sort of weird. It
seems David,
David, get in here. What do you think?
Yeah.
Do you prefer it to these guys?
No, I thought it was shamefully bad because it committed the offense that no award show can be forgiven for, which that it was boring. I mean, even for folks that love film and are interested in all these categories, it was just a very boring ceremony. I think they misunderstood 2 fundamental things. Number one, when they saw how strong those hosts were, we can quibble about whether some of the, the segments and bits were actually funny or in good taste. But like Amy Schumer's monologue, I thought was really sharp, and the chemistry they had together was really good. Why utilize them why not utilize them more? As all these hosts, they just kind of vanished. And then also, somebody mentioned in the first segment of this show, the Tony Awards do a very similar thing with some of their categories where they'll hand out awards either during commercial breaks, and they'll actually cut them into 10 or 15 second bits, which I hate to see. As the Tonys are my favorite show, and it's horrible to see score presented, 15 seconds before cutting to a commercial, but you actually understand what the purpose of that was, because it does bring the show in on time. You disrespect the nominees, shunting these categories off, and we're reading about them on Twitter, and people are misreporting, what was just handed out, and we're kind of trying to catch up on Twitter on what just won. And then we see them shoehorned into the ceremony. They only cut, the time it takes for the people to walk out of their seats to the stage. It was a fiasco and just a very boring show.
I think David's exactly right. I think that the correct term is fiasco, because you don't get to claim that you are, let's just be incredibly brutal here. You don't get to claim that you're cutting these 8 categories because you're trying to, bring in a new audience. what audience are you trying to bring in when you have people that are not connected to the films at all, and then in the process produce a boring show? I mean, the thing that we're all going to be talking about from this Oscar show has absolutely nothing to do with the moments that the producers created. I mean, first of all, how do you have, let's just go through the list here. And I'm going to go on a rant here. I apologize
to be fair, Tony, I think with what happened with Will Smith and Chris Rock, that would be the thing people would be talking about tomorrow, regardless of the quality of the show. Like, so I don't think that is a testament to the quality of the show.
But let's talk about the completely asinine decisions that were made. For example, let's have 3 athletes present a tribute to James Bond when Rami Malek, the most previous Bond villain, and Judi Dench, worldwide treasure, who was M in all of these, have them not participate in that at all. Followed immediately by a Encanto song. Makes no sense. Then let's have Sean Diddy, Puff Daddy, whatever the hell his name is this week, Combs, present a Godfather tribute when you have De Niro and Coppola and Pacino there. What? I mean, it's so asinine. It's the word that I keep coming back to. It's the word that I keep coming back to. It makes no sense.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of these sort of concerns and decisions that were made about presenters and things, but I don't know if it's that much of an outlier of like an award show trying to be relevant and having bad presenters and things. Like I just don't think, like, I agree with a lot of these complaints. I just don't think it is sort of in the scheme of Oscars I've seen over the years as bad.
If you're going to have somebody present a Godfather tribute, Diddy, who was relevant, I think 2 decades ago.
Yeah.
Why now?
I agree. No, I agree. I just think I've seen boring Oscar shows before. This is not the I'm not like, this is like on a new level of boring to previous Oscars that I've seen. I think it was not a great one, but I think I preferred having hosts back. Like, there's some things I enjoyed about it as well. So, but yes, I definitely, I do not think this was the best award show or best Oscars we've ever seen by a long stretch. But I don't necessarily think it was the greatest fiasco in Oscars history.
And it's unfortunate too, because I think that I think for a lot of us in that opening segment, I think a lot of us looked at, say, like that opening segment, and yeah, there were some rhythmic problems with, Schumer and Sykes and Hall. I think that there was a tone that was created in that opening monologue that was fantastic. And I think Schumer's opening monologue was just absolutely a knockout. Mm-hmm. I think that Hall's kind of objectifying of some of the male members of the audience was refreshing. But it seems like after that moment, they didn't know what to do with the hosts after that, which is basically a really common problem with hosts. Yeah.
I do think it is easier when you have one host to rein in a moment. Like with the Oscar Best Picture thing, which is, again, as has been said, a completely different story. I think it did help that Jimmy Kimmel was the sole host and he was ready to go. Whereas when you got 3, it sort of does, and I do think that is the benefit of a host. If things go off plan, if things go unscripted, they can sort of helm the ship. And maybe with 3, that's a bit of a trickier thing to do. That being said, I think that, as others have said, the dynamics of these 3 were fantastic and they worked really well together. Boy, there were also awards handed out tonight at the Oscars. So it'd be nice to get some of your guys' takes on those. I know and I think some of the people tune into this because they want to hear like a bit of a rundown of the winners of the night and thoughts. Charles, I'll let you come in on the short categories because I know you're a student of them. You watch all of the shorts and have opinions. Live action short went to The Long Goodbye. Documentary short went to The Queen of Basketball. And animated short went to, and that was the big upset of the night, The Windshield Wiper. Gerald, what were just your reactions to those three?
While we were doing our pre-show, I switched. I had a la Kachu in the for live action short. I had Long Goodbye for a while, but I think at the beginning of the week I changed it to a la Kachu. Right before the prediction center closed, I changed it back to The Long Goodbye. I'm really glad I did because it was one of those things where it made sense. Now, and I love The Queen of Basketball. The Queen of Basketball is a wonderful, wonderful. I wish we could have seen Ben Proudfoot's entire acceptance speech. And here's the thing about these edited acceptance speeches, even on the transcript, because the Oscars have a web page that will be updating continually throughout the night of the speech transcripts. They're not for the relegated categories. They are only playing the section. They are only putting in the transcripts the section that was broadcast during the ceremony. They're not doing the complete transcripts because I've looked at some of the ones from the video that Kyle Buchanan posted on his Twitter feed, and there's a whole section of Riz Ahmed's speech that was cut. They didn't put anything from the director of the film on there. But that's the presentation of it. The one thing I'm curious about is with the win by the windshield wiper, and I'm really interested about this because I saw it was number 2 in our odds, and when I saw that it was number 2 according to our odds, I thought to myself that what are these people seeing in this? I don't understand. How is this number 2 for so many people? And then it ended up winning. So for anybody in our comments section, please tell me why you went with that, because why you thought that would win.
Charlie, can I jump in here?
No.
Because I'm such a nasty woman. No, but it's funny that you mentioned that because I did see 3 different pieces this morning about the shorts that ranked The Windshield Wiper just on preference as number 1. I don't know why, but clearly that one really resonated with some people.
And I'm not saying that I didn't like it or like how could something like this, but I really am like, it doesn't compute for me in everything that I have in the years that I have spent watching these shorts. The years that I spent watching these shorts, it did not fit into anything like any time that there's for animated, if there's like this meditation type thing that's like looks at things from this outside looking in perspective or whatever, it still just didn't make sense to me. So I was really shocked with it, and to the people who predicted it, props to you on that, because and I will eat crow on that for thinking that your predictions were ridiculous at the time.
Well, moving along to the best animated film, the feature animated film category, Encanto won probably one of the most popular films that won an Oscar tonight. And history was made for the first time. Disney has beaten Pixar in the best animated feature category in a year when they were both had nominated films. Obviously, there are years when Disney has won and a Pixar film hasn't been nominated, but that's sort of a nice feather in Disney's cap, who have like probably critically not been seen as on the artistic level of Pixar. They finally got one up on them in that race. The last time they both went head to head, it was The Incredibles 2 and Ralph Breaks the Internet, and they both ended up splitting the vote, and it went to Spider-Man. So there you go. So great job. What, sorry?
Which was just great.
Yeah, which was a great and very deserving winner. So Encanto, do we have any thoughts on that, Denton? Do you have any thoughts on David? Sorry, David.
No, other than I thought it was a really good year for animated film. I mean, there were multiple nominees in that category that would have been, really deserving winners, which was nice to see because even though, this was maybe a predictable winner and most people had this film out front, there were 2 or 3 others in that category that could have won in another year and would have been equally deserving.
Yeah, no, definitely. International film went to Drive My Car, one of the Best Picture nominees, Best Director nominee. It's nice that doesn't go home without an Oscar. David, do you have any thoughts on Drive My Car taking out Best Animated Feature?
Oh, well, I loved that film. I was really glad to see it take something. I was thrilled for its other nominations. Didn't think, it had a chance of winning elsewhere, really, except for maybe a screenplay. But happy it took something and we got to hear a speech, even though it was, an abrupt speech and very interrupted and, a bit disrespectful, the way they kept trying to play him off. But a really nice win, and happy to see it take home one of its nominations.
Yes. Did either of you guys, Tony or Charles, have any thoughts on Drive My Car or Encanto wins?
I was curious. I'm actually curious, Matt, because you saw it yesterday. What did you think of it?
Oh, I said, I heard it was a bit hard to see in Sydney Drive My Car, so I only caught up with it yesterday. I look, it's interesting. It seems like, at least amongst the Gold Derby editors, quite a polarizing film. It sort of drew me in, and I sort of went along for the ride at the end. It is way too long a movie, though. I've got a bit of a bugbear for movies that just go on too long. I think you can tell your story in 90 minutes to 2 hours, surely. No, I thought it was. I
do also want to say about that movie, though. This was something. The way that because really it looked like this was it looked like this year. Like international feature was going to be one of the toughest categories to predict because we had all these, films, and even just of the ones that got nominated, normally it would be very tough to try to discern that. But the film critics groups, particularly New York and then Los Angeles, and then the National Society of Film Critics, made this film a priority. They said, we want to champion this film to other levels, and because of that concentrated thing, people went and if they hadn't seen the movie yet, they made it a priority to go and see this movie, and it obviously just resonated with the right people at the Academy, with the writers, with the directors, and with the Academy overall, if it was able to get that Best Picture nomination. So good for them on that one, and this is a very well-deserved win for Japan on this front.
Some of those scenes between the actors at the end of the film, they're unreal. They're great. Grip it. You're just hooked on what they have to say, and the way things are revealed there is really, really nice. Tony, any thoughts on those two?
No, I think Drive My Car is one of those films that I never I never complain that a film is too long. I think that the bad films are too long and that the good films are too short. I think Drive My Car is a film that's too short. I think it's a masterpiece.
There you go. Loves it. So then June just went on a run below the lines. It lost costumes and makeup, but it won visual effects, sound, production design, score, film editing. Is that and cinematography? Massive one. So June, no director nomination, no acting nominations, which is a bit less surprising. But
the most thanked man of the night was not nominated for directing.
Yeah. No, but it's hard to fault any of those technical elements of the film. I know my sister's husband said to me over summer, he's like, have you seen June? I said, oh yeah, no, it's good. And he goes, the music, it's so good. That's the best film score I've heard in ages. It's just all those elements. Any of you big June fans? We're happy with the June wins?
Oh, I think I think the funny thing is that sometimes we look for narratives in films, in wins that we don't necessarily need to find. And I think that the Dune really was just one of those cinematic achievements that should have been more undeniable than I think maybe we gave it credit for.
For me as a viewer, like it just being part one was a bit unsatisfying, and maybe like you don't view it as a full. Like I found just mentally for me hard to get my sort of head around. Like, oh, I got to wait a year and a half to see how it ends, and what if it doesn't end very well? Like you know, all that sort of thing. But it's a great achievement. Speaking of sort of costumes and makeup and hairstyling, makeup and hair went to Tammy Faye. Costume went to Cruella, which most people were predicting Cruella to take out costumes, but it wasn't favored anywhere else. And also, like Disney, like since Alice in Wonderland won, like back in 2010 or something, none of the sort of like films made by Disney have won there, but not films that like were part of that sort of like a Disney animated film or characters that have been adapted to real life. You know, Maleficent lost, and some of those other ones lost, like Cinderella, I think lost, and a few of those. I can't remember all the nominees right now. So it was nice that Cruella was able to sort of, you know, wipe that Disney curse a bit in the costumes category.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. And I mean, it's costumes, the movie essentially. So yeah, it makes sense.
It's a movie,
and I'm glad we got to see Jenny Bevan again. I love seeing
it. Yeah. We sort of the two best picture, like sort of movies that may have been in the mix to win that didn't win were Power of the Dog and Belfast. Power of the Dog, Jane Campion, the director, was able to win director, which was nice. And Belfast was able to win. Kenneth Branagh was able to win an Oscar finally for writing the film, who was the director too. So it's nice that those two sort of directors were able to walk away with an Oscar. I was just so lovely to see Kenneth Branagh win. That's such a beautiful film, such a lovely film, and such a personal one for him. What do you think about that moment, David? Because I know some people were not predicting him to win.
I didn't. I was very excited about how up in the air that category was. I mean, I wasn't predicting Belfast. I thought Licorice Pizza would not win. It really underperformed in nominations, and I don't think the buzz around it has been as strong as, you know, people predicting it to win here. But I didn't have Belfast, but it was really nice to see. Again, I said this about the animated category, but I think my main takeaway from this ceremony, rather than, you know, excitement about this or that winner, is it was nice to see so many of these categories up in the air in terms of, I know our odds did incredibly well. I think, you know, our odds had most of the winners, but a lot of these were genuine toss-ups. And it was nice to kind of not have an inkling as to what was going to win that category. But yeah, just on your other point too, Matt, it was nice that a lot of these films that didn't, you know, take away a lot of prizes had at least one prize. I think they did a really nice job of acknowledging a lot of the different films that were nominated this year, even if it was, you know, one for Power of the Dog, which should have had more, or one for Cruella, or, you know, a lot of nice singular acknowledgements for a lot of the different great films of the year.
And with Dune taking 6, that could have been tricky, but they were able to do it.
Yeah, to add to that point, as this you know, creature's trying.
Oh, here we go.
Over me. To add to that point, I just looked at it, and 7 of the 10 Best Picture nominees walked away with something this evening.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. And I know you were saying how up in the air it was, David, but I hate to correct you. Up in the air won none of the categories. None of the categories were up in the air tonight. There was one of the 3 that missed out. What were the other 3 that didn't get anything? Nightmare Alley.
Nightmare Alley, Licorice Pizza.
Licorice Pizza. Yeah. So there you go. They were the 3 that missed out. The other screenplay award went to Coda, which also won supporting actor, which other people have weighed in on their best speech of the night. Troy Kushel was the one for me. I thought he gave the best speech of the night. And it was just lovely to see those historic wins for Coda. Any thoughts on any of the Coda wins from any of you guys? Because you missed our best picture sort of breakdown and discussion.
I thought it was nice to see Ya Jung-yoon. I thought she gave a lovely introduction to the category, and also that she used ASL to signal the winner first.
Oh, is that what she was doing?
It looked like there was some confusion amongst the nominees why she wasn't speaking, but it looked like she was signing to Troy that he had won, which I thought was beautiful. I mean, it was a really lovely moment to kind of open up his equally beautiful speech.
Seems like he didn't react straight away, though, when she was signed. It was only he waited for her to say it. I don't know if that was out of politeness to the other nominees, not to just get up while they're being confused. Whether
but the thing about the thing about Coda's wins is that one of the things that I think we in the prognostication business need to get away from is realizing that statistics mean something until they don't, and we have to realize that statistics mean something when the general rules of the game are the same. And what we've seen over the last few years is that the rules are not the same. The Academy membership is expanding. The preferential ballot, those two combinations mean that passion means a lot more. So I thought that, to have Coda win to go for three, and to do what so many films haven't done in, Power of the Dog is the first film since The Graduate to win only directing. Now, to those of you that are huge Power of the Dog fans, like I am, I think that's pretty good company to be in. Power of the Dog and The Graduate, I think that's a good club.
Yeah. Very much
I think the length of the season too, Tony, as much as I hate that, we're kind of capping the Oscar season and it's almost April. I mean, it goes on for an exorbitantly long amount of time, but the length of the season is really changing our relationships to stats as well. Like, if the Oscars were on their calendar of a few years ago, Coda might not have won. People have much more time to see the films. We wouldn't have been talking about, can Penelope Cruz upset for Parallel Mothers if they didn't have this longer amount of time to actually see the film and get it out there. So I think, to your point, if we continue on this calendar of having such a long span between the nominations and the voting and the ceremony, the stats would matter more, but the time is certainly changing the dynamic quite a bit.
Yeah, well, if you look from the last 6 or so Best Picture winners: Spotlight, Moonlight, Shape of Water, Green Book, Parasite, Nomadland, and now Coda, it really, when you look at all the different narratives and all the different ways those races played out, it does seem like Best Picture, the rule book's starting to get thrown out, and it just does depend on the year and how they feel about those 10 films and which film sort of has the heart. It's not about necessarily having the most nominations or a director nomination or anything like that.
I'm just happy that Anthony Hopkins got the standing ovation that he deserved, and that just warmed my heart. Yeah.
Did anyone have any thoughts on Anna de Bos's win for West Side Story? We've talked a bit about how great the speech was, but that was the place that film got honored.
What's funny is that it's I think lost in all of the mishmash of information that we've been dealing with in this last bit of time, is that we have an openly queer woman of color who is really the first openly queer person to win a performance Oscar. I think that's something that needs to be made mention of, and I love that the fact that the Oscars as a whole leaned into that tonight, leaned into some of the anti-queer legislation, the anti-trans legislation that's going on around the United States right now. I thought it was important, and I thought it was really, really fitting, and I hope that gets kind of the ink that it deserves.
And that really ties in well too with Jessica Chastain's speech that also touched on some of those issues and themes. So that's it was a really nice which was sort of the first award of the night and the second last award of the night, touched on that sort of stuff. So hopefully that's helped people. Yes. So I've got the winners of the various competitions at Gold Derby for predicting. So, apparently, Max Dinnenberg had a perfect score. And the highest points won with the wages at a point. So congratulations to Max. He got 100%, every Oscar winner correct. In the past number of years we've been doing this, we've only had one person get a correct score in the past at the Oscars. But tonight, he tied with 8 other people. Bertu Yilmaz, Krokemer, Blake, R.M. Pepperone, Jenny Luminaz, PJ Meprism. I'm screwing up these usernames. So sorry, guys. Dylan Hargraves and Mike TM732 all had a perfect score from the almost 9,500 people that predicted Oscars at Gold Derby, which is, I think, the most we've ever had. So that's really exciting. Of our Gold Derby editorial team, bragging rights go to Daniel Montgomery, Paul Sheehan, and Chris Beecham, I think. The 3 had 91% accuracy, 21 of the 23 categories. You then have a 3-way tie for second with you, Charles. You've done it. Riley and Susan. So Riley's been directing us. So very well done on 86%.
20 out of 23, I think.
I think so. Yeah, 86% to 91. That must only be a drop of one category. I'm apparently behind you guys on 82, which must be one category behind that, I would imagine. So there you go.
To fight another day here at this site.
Yeah, there you
we
go.
We all live to fight another day at this site.
How did you go, David, with predictions?
Miserably.
Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah, not good.
We'll move on.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, Matt, at like the 82.6.
Oh yeah, Tony. Yeah, what did you fall? Yeah, okay. So around 19, correct. Yeah. So I'm definitely nothing to brag about, but I'm not embarrassed with how I've done. I think that's fine. Of the experts at Gold Derby, it looks like Scott Mantz from KTLA, Wilson Morales, Black Film and TV, and Peter Travers, ABC, got 22 out of 23 categories. So there you go. They're the top experts at Gold Derby. Hey, you didn't top the list this time. You've got plenty of other stuff to predict at Gold Derby, and there's always next year's Oscars. Final, I didn't check in with you guys about this. Did you have any thoughts or comments on the Will Smith situation with Chris Rock? Anything you wanted to say? Charles, we'll start with you. Why not?
I mean,
you don't have to.
It's one of those things that it didn't really hit me what had happened until I noticed that the audio went out, but the camera feed was still going on because I was watching this on cable, and I was very confused there for a second. I had seen Will Smith go up on stage, but I didn't really see what had happened. It wasn't until actually my mom sent me someone had recorded it and put it in slow motion. Because at first, when I first saw it...
Oh my God, my mom did the same thing.
Yeah, because when I first saw it, at first I thought maybe the hand was placed up, and so it was like that type of thing. But then when I watched it in slow motion, I see, oh no, he went for it. I was like, oh, wow. I mean, it took such air out of the room. And I know there have been so many things that probably already have been said, but I mean, it just felt so weird because, as in bad taste as the joke was, I mean, you're a public figure, man. You don't have to like it, but you've been doing it for so long. I don't understand how this is how you just like lost it at this. I really don't understand it. I don't know what I don't think there's going to be anything like what's the word I'm looking for? Rescinding the award by the Academy.
No.
I don't think that's going to happen. But I mean, like, like that is, first of all, I am wondering, what is the security protocol at the Dolby during this? Because if anybody else had tried to do that, they would have been arrested.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Members of the audience, they would have been arrested.
Now let's put this into perspective here. I mean, when it comes to incidents like this in Oscar history, this will go down in history as one of those moments, similar to, say, like the streaker at the 1973 awards, behind David Niven. Look it up on YouTube if you haven't seen it. There's going to be a lot of time to talk about this moment. Should it have happened? Should it not have happened? Why did it happen? Who's at fault? I suggest to Film Twitter and to all of the people watching this right now, please let's keep the hyperbole at bay and let calmer heads prevail, because there are certain things that are not for us to weigh in on. We were not in the room. We have nothing to do with it. So let's just sit back and let other people deal with it.
Yeah, I think there's some wisdom there, Tony, for sure. David, did you want to weigh in at all?
No, I think that's appropriate. Just very sad. That's all I'll say. A very sad situation to unfold on national television. And yeah, I hope everybody involved finds peace and reconciliation after what was kind of I think for some people in the room, a very scary situation. Not to minimize what us at home watching it. I'm sure a lot of people were flabbergasted, but I bet there were people in that room that were actually afraid about what was happening. So
I could feel it. I could feel it just from the. It's sometimes weird how something in a room will play, but when you have it broadcast on television, sometimes something doesn't. The thing doesn't come across in the same way because you're not in the room. You're not surrounded by all these people. You could feel it.
Yeah.
You could feel it. And it felt, and honestly, it felt like that all the way up to the actual, between that and the actual presentation of Best Actor. Yeah. It
made Will Smith's speech all the more awkward. And but the thing that I really, I'm going to get on my soapbox here, is that let's not pass judgment one way or the other, because I already know that there are going to be people that are passing judgment on Will, on Chris, on the people in the audience who might have felt one way or the other, or might have perceived to have been felt one way or the other based on how it looked on camera. Put it aside, put it behind, let the people that were involved in it deal with it, and let us stay out of it, because it is not, all we can do is aggravate and not help reconcile.
And I'm sure because of that beautiful speech, Tony, the internet will come to its senses.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? The internet can come to me on Film Twitter and have all sorts of opinions about it, but guess what? I'm not on Twitter, so.
Oh, there you go. There you go. I am. So bring all your complaints to me about this show and how we've dissected the various things that happened. And we'll talk about. Well, guys, let's just finish up. I want, if you can refrain from answering this one if you want to. It was Coda's big night. It won. Wrong shoulder. It won Best Picture. The big winner, Coda. Would anyone like to finish off by saying something nice about Coda as a film, the Best Picture of 2021?
Oh, I'll say plenty nice about it. I mean,
just one thing, please. We're running long on time. Go ahead.
No, I think this is a film that is a film of the time, for the time. I think it won because of the time, and I really hope that people not try to read something into this win. This is not a bad win. This is not a unworthy win. And I think it's a really great way for this Oscar season to be done.
Very nice. Anyone else want to add a final thought about Coda?
I mean, it's interesting that it was able to position itself. It was able to be the one to be the clear alternative to Power of the Dog. And I think I like Tony said, I think it's a reflection of the time, but it's a really nice movie. And I know some people will say, oh, Best Picture winners should enhance the medium or something like that. It's a film that a lot of people genuinely love, and in addition to that, it's a wonderful film about family. It doesn't feel pretentious. It doesn't feel hokey. It does it right, and it's so nice. And it's nice to have Best Picture winners like that. It's nice to have that.
David, do you love Coda too?
I think it's a very nice film to win. What's disappointing about the way it became a 2-horse race at the end of this is, people kind of pitting the films against each other rather than just discussing, the merits of each film. So even though, I didn't predict Coda, although I was thinking about it, there's no detractors out of me about its win.
Yeah, not who you would have voted for, perhaps.
Well, I don't know if it wasn't what I predicted. So I'm upset that I didn't predict it. I'm upset I got, Best Picture wrong, which I hate to do, but it's a very nice winning Best Picture. And certainly the cast and creatives are extraordinary. And it was nice to see them have that moment at the end of the ceremony too.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Coda, Best Picture of 2021. If maybe you predicted Coda. If not, don't worry. There's plenty more events to predict at goldderby.com, where you can also join in with the discussion in our feisty forums and watch exclusive interviews with award contenders and read interesting blog articles covering biggest awards moments. Emmys Prediction Center for 2022 is up and running, and we can't wait to get discussing the Emmys. Thank you so much. Yeah. We'll be back for more. I cannot wait. So I'm going to get back out to the boat to do a bit more fishing for awards predictions. And you guys, thank you so much for your thoughts, insights. Charles, David, Tony, Rob, Joyce, and who else joined us in that first session? I've forgotten now. Chris Rosen, of course, the one, the only Chris Rosen. I'm Matt Noble, and thank you so much, everyone, for watching and sending your comments in. Have a good one.